All right, and we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Thursday. It is Thursday, so that means that you are stuck with Dan and I for the next hour, which is not really a bad thing. So, Brian here, and of course,
It's Thursday. We had one of those last week.
Yeah.
Sorry, old humor. Yes. So you're stuck with us for an hour, and you're stuck with me for an hour, which is even worse. So here we are, and we have a guest this evening, which I'm excited to talk to and learn about her book and what she's been working on. And so, has fall hit cold and heavy for you like it has here?
Well, it was for a while, and it was getting pretty cold. It was getting down to 29 degrees.
Ugh.
Although I don't want to know what the temperature is where she is.
Well,
I can just imagine. But anyways, yeah, no, it's been getting cold. And then all of a sudden, it decides to warm back up again. And now we're back into the 50s. We're starting. Yeah, so it's been nice. But rain is coming. It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
We're getting it first here because I'm ahead of you on that end. It was warm yesterday and today, and it got nice and cold and rainy halfway through today. And I'm like, eh.
Oh, we got people.
So we have Valerie. Hi, Valerie. John Clark. Glad to see you here. Ashley. Amber.
Hello. Yeah. Amber. All these people are gearing up. They know about our guest. Yeah, I tell everyone, word of mouth is the best advertising you can have. I swear it is. So not to mention that they're all my family. So I talk to them every day. But it's always good because then more and more family members show up and they start watching and supporting. And then it just goes on from there. So, yeah. So
congratulations, John Clark. You just got adopted.
That's right. Your family. So don't forget to like and share this video, please. And we're also live in 2 other locations as well. So not just Facebook, but we're also live on Facebook or YouTube. So hello, YouTube. And we're also on Twitch. Just because. Yeah. Yes. So there's my grandmother. Hello. Welcome. So I got my aunts on here. John is here. My sisters are here. Another aunt. Welcome, everyone. The usual suspects. Top fans of the show, I would say. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be there, but now I'm co-host. So.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. Is it weird to go from, person of just watching, like a fan, not so much a fan, but, an avid watcher of the show?
Yeah, although I think it was a little easier for me because I had been on the show so many times and I helped by guest hosting a couple times. So that made it easier. Although being a guest on here or on any of these is different than being a co-host because being a guest, the questions are at me. I'm one book I'm talking about or something else, and then I'm done. Whereas here, I'm part of the team that's asking questions and presenting and all. So it's a little different.
Okay.
But it's been a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed doing this.
Right. Okay. So I never asked, and I might as well ask while we're talking about it. So your interview, maybe you don't remember. I don't know. But your interview is coming up with the Brian and Sherry show. You're preparing for it. You're ready for it. You have to dial that phone number to call into the show.
Oh, yeah.
Because back then it was an internet radio show.
Yeah.
So we had to dial in by phone number, which there was no screen, which was fantastic because people didn't have to look at me. But now I waste too much money to beautify myself because I have to be on camera. But anyways, after the interview goes well, I think, if I remember correctly, our first interview with you, what was your take? I'd love to know what you thought afterwards.
Well, the first interview with you and Sherry, that was early on in my
Yeah.
career with Cosby Media, and it was my publicist who set that up. So I got handed a handful of interviews to do, and before I was on your show, I was on one from England. I was on one person here, and then another guy who was pre-recording a whole season of shows before he was going to debut them. All three other ones are very clinical, straightforward. You're going to be on at this time. You're going to be off at this time. Here's your list of questions. Or do you have questions? Those are what we're going to talk about. The one who was pre-recording, you had literally lines you had to say. He gave me lines, say, okay, at the end, I want you to say this. At the beginning, this is how you're going to say hello. So I came on here thinking, okay, here we go again. What are they going to ask? I was waiting for a script. I was waiting for something, and then I was like, nothing happened. I contacted you or Sherry. I was like, okay, what do we do? Oh, just call this number. Okay. So I did. I got on there, and I was like, wow, we had fun. The other ones, I mean, I enjoy being interviewed. I love being interviewed by these people about my books, about my stuff I'm doing. But
Yeah.
and then it was fine. It's just a bit clinical, a bit just right on the nose. And this was a lot more comfortable, and I enjoyed that because it was very easy flowing. And the fact is, to be perfectly honest, I knew neither you nor Sherry had actually read any of the books. So whereas the others were asking very specific questions, or they only read part of it, so
no, and it stinks because when I first started doing the podcast with Sherry, and the authors would, oh, I'd love to be a guest. I'd like to come on, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to send you a book. I used to get books galore in the mail. They would send them to me. But the problem is that I wouldn't have enough time to read them from, when I got them to when the guest was coming on. So, I mean, no, I did not read your book. I have since. I have sent, obviously, whatever. But no, there wasn't enough time for when you were coming on for when I had to read it, unfortunately. So, yeah.
It actually worked a little bit because you were asking legitimately, what's this about? And the questions of a person who hadn't experienced the book yet. Whereas it wasn't so much just down the line, okay, your character is this age and this part, and what did you feel about writing this? That kind of, you were more, what's the book about? Oh, really? Why were you inspired to write that? I liked that. I was when I figured out that you hadn't read it at first, like, oh, where is this going to go? But it actually went pretty well that way because you were genuinely interested in the book as a new person to the book, so it worked.
Well, now you know my secret. I don't read the book, so I am learning right along with everybody else about it. So yeah, I mean, if you were on the show, I wanted to learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I did that in the beginning, but yeah. I think the only reason why I made the show comfortable and fun is because I was nervous. You were probably the maybe fourth guest that
really?
we had on, because you were part of season 1, I think, when we first started. So I mean, that was almost 7 years ago.
Yep.
Jesus. But anyways,
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was nervous, but the way that I trained myself is that I'm going to be talking to somebody on the phone. I don't know the person, but I'm going to treat them as if it's a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in, ages. And we're just catching up. We're just chit-chatting, having fun, that's all it is. So, and then you're just poking around, you're asking questions that you normally would ask in a regular conversation anyways, but God knows how many people are listening to it. So it turns into a show, or a podcast or whatever. So it works out.
That worked for me. Actually, after this, before and after it, I encountered people I could tell were kind of new to YouTube, blogging, all that. And they were doing interviews with me, live interviews or recorded, and they were nervous. And I have a different perspective. I spent 20 years on the stage. I've been in theater classes and in performances. I've done speaking and all that before I was an author. And so I get out there, and I know when I realize somebody's kind of getting rigid and nervous, I understand how to approach a conversation with somebody in public, in a public forum, to get them to kind of focus on me. And that's something we learn early when it comes to the more like a debate or interview styles for stage is you don't look this way. Both of us talking to the audience, we go this way and let the audience just listen to our conversation. And so there's been a few times I've had to steer that with people. Okay, don't worry what they're listening to. Just talk to me. And it works. It really does. It helped me early on in a lot of stuff. It helped me a lot to get over my own nerves on being on stage and being interviewed and stuff. As I realized I should put up that fourth wall and just talk to this person about my book and about me, and then let the people on the other side of that fourth wall just listen in. Now, the great thing about this is we have the fourth wall over here on our screen asking questions, so we can pause and go, okay, so-and-so is curious about this. We can bring the audience into it. But ultimately, we get to have that one-on-one conversation, or two, however you want to look at it, conversation with the person. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep her in the sidelines for much longer here. She's been there for a while.
She's
feel like
probably asking herself, who are these people and why am I here? So.
Well, I think this will probably be the second time that that I have spoken to an author in this type of genre. So I'm curious. I was very excited to see that authors like that were reaching out and wanting to be on the show. So Creative Edge, Mickey, of course, hooked me up here. So VK is going to come on and talk to us. So probably I'm
going to let her pronounce her last name for us because I don't want to butcher it. be very nice about that because my name is so easy.
Tritschler, VK Tritschler, right? Tritschler? Okay, well, I'm trying.
Let her say it.
Okay, I'll let her say it. Well, that's the reason why I was listening to the other podcast to begin with, because I wanted to hear the other person say her name. But I still learned a lot. So, I mean, I tried, right? I tried.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Answer the questions. Pronounce your last name.
Tritschler. Pretty close. Yeah.
Tritschler. Okay. Well,
yeah.
All right. Well,
it's pretty close.
Question that popped in my head is, what time is it for you?
It is Friday, 11:40 in the morning.
Oh, okay. So we don't have you in the middle of the night. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a 3 a.m. call, so that's good. But yeah, we're a day ahead of you.
We have one of our listeners that comes on periodically. He's from Oxford, England, and when he's listening at this time for him, it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he'll be on and going, "Man, I'm so tired." I'm like, "Dude, we record this. You can go sleep."
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Brian and Dan Hour, and
hey.
I have to admit, what we were just talking about kind of hinges on what we were going with, and I think you've already heard this, but I don't think either of us had an opportunity to read your book, to understand more about what you've written. So, in that line, please introduce us to what you've written.
Hi, guys. Well, it depends what you want to read, really. I've got kind of a cross-genre range. I do focus on romance because I love the connection to people. And so for me, relationships is a really big part of the storyline. My latest one is a paranormal romance, which involves were-tigers and some local animals that I've connected to. So we have were-panthers and all kinds of were-beasts from around Australia. I like the concept of having a bit of a play on a traditional genre of paranormal and then adding a touch of Australiana to it. I'm actually a New Zealander who is living in Australia, so I have a little bit of cross-contamination when I write because it's not straight up Australian, but we've been here for 6 years now and really enjoyed it. My father's family is from Canada, so I come with a little bit of a twang as well. Hopefully it makes it easier for you guys to understand me. Yeah, and I've been writing for a few years. I've got a couple of books in the works coming up. A lot of them around that paranormal sci-fi theme, because I quite enjoy the imagination that comes with that. And other than that, I keep myself super busy with other stuff as well.
So for yours, you're doing. You said paranormal. Is it shifter?
Yeah, it's shifter romance. Yeah.
Okay. Now, just so I get this clear right away, is this young adult? Is this mature? What range would I be looking at for this?
It's for adults. It's not like, I know they have a range of spicy in this field. It's not shades of gray. I try.
Yes.
I try and keep it relatively broad spectrum, because I don't want to be too defining. And I think that the spice in it really is just part of the storyline. For me, it's the connection and the relationships that really build that story. So I don't focus on that too heavily, but I've got a range of books, and depending on what kind of levels you want to read at, depends on which one you can pick up. So I try and allow for that. But to be honest, I'm like a terrible writer, because I don't write to genre. I write whatever takes my fancy, whenever it takes my fancy. And as a result of that, I have quite a broad spectrum of genres that I've worked on. So yeah.
That's good. It's kind of where I try to write a lot of times. Is what one of the pieces of advice I've always heard is write what you want to read. And
exactly.
So that's where that's at. And you'll find other people who have your taste to be like, oh, look, because they haven't found that until they pick out yours, which is you're feeding them and yourself. No, I asked that because I had the same issue in the fact that I write mostly young adult. I have one, maybe two, depending on how I look at it, what I like to call grown-up books, because they're not adult. That word has such a bad connotation to genre.
Yeah.
I have to say these books are grown up. And then people can go, what does that mean? I'm like, okay, it's clean, but it's for people who are mature, whatever. So,
it's a hard one to find that line. Getting that balance right is really difficult as well, because where you please one side, you probably don't please the other. But
one of my books, and I'm actually working on a version of it now that has a kitsune in it from Japanese folklore, which fits right into the shifter entire genre. It's very common in the shifter genre, except in mine, first of all, the story's young adult. Second, I don't play to the traditional tropes in the shifter genre. I actually hearken a lot more to the traditional Japanese view of the characters, of the creatures. And so I have people who are constantly, when I say, oh, I have kitsune here. Oh, I just love those hot kitsune books. No, it's not that. So I've had that issue too. So, which, I mean, if people like that, that's fine. I'm not going to say, oh, don't do that. I'm just, it's not my book. So
yeah.
And I love that you say you bring a flavor of Australia or wherever you're at into your stories. I love doing that too, because it helps. First of all, you know what you're writing about, because you're right there. You can feel, smell, touch right there. But also, it might introduce people to something that isn't just New York City, like every superhero movie, or Los Angeles. Here we go again. I wrote about Morristown, Tennessee, in the book that has Brian in it as a character, and so people literally have contacted me going, "Oh, I didn't even know that place existed." Thanks. I lived there for a long time.
Yeah, the shifter stuff really started. I was playing a game with some author friends of mine. She's got a pack of cards. It's we call plot poker, and there's different cards you can pull out, and then you randomly assign stuff, and then you just start writing whatever takes your fancy. And I started writing this, and I thought, actually, this is kind of fun. I quite like what's coming through here. And then I'd seen on TV they had a whole show about how there were sightings of big cats around Australia, which are not native to Australia at all. There's no panthers native here at all. And so they had all these people interviewing, and you know, these kind of shady shots, a bit like, you know, the Sasquatch, of people from a distance, and you know, trying to gauge size and stuff. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun if we could have a bit of a play on that concept, that, you know, all these sightings that they've got of big cats are actually people that are shifters. And so that kind of worked itself into the story. And then originally I was just going to write one book, and then I started writing it, and then the plot got so convoluted. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to finish this in one book. this is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, so I've got 2 down. I got 1 to go to try and wrap up the pieces on it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I've been able to bring in a lot of the local animal wildlife into it. And yeah, it's been a bit of an adventure writing this one. I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
So, okay, this is this your current book that you're currently promoting?
Yeah, so the one that's just come out is book 2 of, I call them the Nowhere Pack. The town that they set up is a place called Nowhere in the middle of outback Australia. And I kind of like the pun and play on that one too. And so, yeah, it's the second book in the series for this one. And it gets fairly full on, lots of fight scenes for people that are into that, lots of, you know, drama and cliffhangers and that kind of thing. And then we're leading into the wrap up, where hopefully nobody's guessed what's coming. I don't think so. There's little snippets of everything through book 1 and 2, but book 3 is going to be fairly explosive. So that'll come out next year. And in the meantime, I'm writing 2 other books, completely different genres, just for fun. So, yeah.
I've been there. Okay, so why don't we start with book 1 and just tell us more about book 1, get people interested in what this whole series is.
Okay. So book 1's called A Town Called Nowhere. The story opens where you meet 2 individuals. One of them is Nikki. She's had a pretty rough upbringing. She lives by herself. She was abandoned as a child, so she's gone through foster care, and she's fairly tough, but life hasn't been easy for her, and she's working for these horrible people that she doesn't really like, but she kind of has to make ends meet. And she gets to work one night and then finds out she's going to get fired, and she's found this necklace lying around. She works in a restaurant. She found a necklace lying around, so she decides she's going to pocket it and do a runner, which she does, and she ends up running away and finds herself lost in the wilderness in a town called Nowhere. And at the same time, we've got the other character coming through, and his name's Drew. He's from a very wealthy, well-known were-panther family. He is the heir apparent for the panther tribe, and he's not very happy about it. So he doesn't like how dads run things. He doesn't appreciate his position in life, and he's a bit over it. So he's decided to hit the road and escape for a little bit, and meets her in the middle of this wilderness. So we have these 2 completely unknowns meeting up in a strange location. And obviously this is where the romance starts kicking off. So, you know, you get that initial attraction, and then we have, they start creating their own pack from here and inviting people across, and they form this town, and things then start getting really messy. Drew's dad gets back involved. He wants to take back control. It turns out Nikki's not quite as underprivileged as she thinks she is when she realizes who her family are, and there becomes a lot of push and pull from both of them around expectation and guidelines around leadership, who's going to be in control. It really becomes an issue of controlling lives. So I quite like the sort of symbiotic relationship between them, but also that they're very contrasting characters. So there's a lot of growth and development, particularly for Nikki in book 2, and then you'll see some more of that coming through for Drew in book 3. So
sounds pretty cool. That's sounds very dramatic. I like that. I like a good drama in there. Yes, sappy romance gets much, but I have family who loves that, so that sounds pretty cool. Now,
Yeah.
I've written in a couple of my books, I have characters that are either animalistic or, like I said, the kitsune. I have done some research into the actual animals to try and adopt a little bit of that into the characters, either in human or animal form. Have you done the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I love the idea of being able to bring in small elements of the animalistic nature of it while still retaining the humanity. So, you know, when they get angry, you can see flashes of their teeth come through, or you can see, you know, elongation of their fingernails, stuff like that, where you get the sense that they could become very different very quickly, but they're holding stuff back. I think that's there's a beauty in that too, being able to really have that play between the animalistic side of the person and that human side, and sometimes they're competing against each other as well. Drew's quite a possessive kind of guy, and he gets a little bit emotional at times. So I got to have some real fun playing on that as well.
Okay. So do you involve in the story, one of the most common tropes I have seen in this particular genre is the hiding from society trope, the theme of, you know, we can't reveal what we are to regular humans. Does that play a big part in this, or a part at all?
A little bit, because I think, you know, the original story that I had with it, the concept was that these are, nobody knows that shifters exist. So I think, you know, that kind of underlying shifters have to remain hidden scenario still sits there. But I've made Drew's family particularly very wealthy and very prominent in society. And I did that for a reason, because I think, you know, the other side of the coin is if you were a shifter family and you were able to accumulate a lot of wealth, you could probably pay a lot of people off to keep that quiet anyway. And then you get the added benefit of having the protection of through that as well. So there's definitely the two elements to it, and Nikki's family, as you find out in book one, are actually from a criminal background. So I wanted to have a bit of a play on that as well. The concept that her family, which are American based, are actually from a criminal organization, because I think that's quite fun to have a little bit of a side note to it. So
Yeah.
Nice, interesting. Sounds very interesting. Ashley asks the question, what was your first book that you wrote?
the very first book I wrote was called The Secret Life of Sarah Meads, and it's actually a rom-com, and I wrote it. A lot of the storyline actually was some of the crazy stuff that I'd seen happen in the real world as I'd become a young mom and going through that scenario. I would like to put a footnote on this that my husband doesn't cheat. Her husband cheats in this book. But I had so much fun writing it, and it was actually kind of delving into the mental health of mothers and women and the well-being side. And I got to explore what would happen if you had a heroine who didn't cope. So instead of, we always see these strong superwomen that can juggle jobs and family and life. And I got to really jump in and delve into the psychology around, well, what happens if that doesn't work? What if she's not as strong as you think she is? How do you get through that? And what does that look like? So I had a lot of fun actually delving into the psychology on that one. I have a degree in psychology, so I think that's where my initial ploy came through. But yeah, for me, I look back on that book fondly because she's one of my favorite characters, because she's the first one that I really kind of fleshed out and got a game plan for. I think the one thing that people get most upset about with that book is it doesn't have a solid ending, because I didn't really want to give her a happily ever after, because it didn't really match the story. She's not the kind of person that would get a happy ever after, but I don't want to make it like mega depressive either. You don't want to get to the end of the book and go, oh my God, that's terrible. So I kind of left it a little bit open. So my biggest, I guess, feedback from readers on that one is they don't like the ending, but I'm okay with that.
Sounds like more of a real ending. A real world ending. I will admit, I have watched some Hallmark movies, and my mother loves the Hallmark mysteries and all. Every one of them has the happily ever after. Every one of them. I'm like, life doesn't work out that way. It's all bad, but sometimes it's just life moves on.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 because when you write romance, you really have to come up with a happily ever after scenario, or at least like a nice ending. Mm-hmm. So I definitely didn't tick the box on that one, but I really enjoyed having fun with that character, and she gets herself into some crazy situations, so that was quite fun too.
Well, sounds like it would be fun. Ashley again asks, how many books have you written, and how many shifter books?
How many shifter books? So I've got the 2 shifter books that I've done through the Nowhere series. I've got another, hold on, I have to kind of mentally count here. I think I've got another 5 books. I've got rom-com, I've got romantic suspense, I've got a paranormal, like a world shifting one, which is I've got the second book of that one comes out next year. And then I've got 2 that I'm writing at the moment. One of them's another rom-com, and another one is kind of like a shifter. It's the angels, demons, paranormal side. So I've got a few.
So you do cross a lot of lines as you're writing. That's impressive.
I really do. I'm sorry. I'm terrible. Like as an author, I feel really sorry for my readers because you never know what's going to come out, but it's whatever kind of takes my fancy at the time. And the way I look at it is when you look at it long term, it's more interesting reading for you guys because, it keeps your reading varied.
Oh, yeah. People, I should say, people fall in love with the writer's style more than their genre. I would hope. So that might be more in there. But yeah, I mean, I have to say, I've written young adult fantasy, I've written adult fantasy, I've written science fiction, I've written dystopian, post-apocalyptic, Christian science fiction, and just recently science fantasy Christian fiction.
Wow. That's great.
I've dabbled all across these things, all in the speculative field, but all over the place. So I've had people pick up one of my books, my Christian science fiction book, pick it up and go, "This is nothing like Dragon One." I'm like, "Yeah, that's 300 years in our future. It has no magic in it. Like, of course it doesn't." But that's just me. Let's see here. Valerie, what got you interested in writing?
Well, the first book I started on, I think, was more just a sort of a distraction thing. It gave me some time out. When I write, for me, it's a bit like watching television. Like I am a visual writer, so I see the story in my head and then I just write what I see. So I don't plot a lot. I'm a terrible plotter. In fact, every time I write a plot, it goes off plot. So it never works for me. So for me, it's really sort of a downtime thing, and I enjoy being able to get into other characters and getting outside of my headspace and creating new places and new worlds and new events. I think seriously got into writing when I'd moved to Australia, predominantly because when we moved over here, we had like a bucket list of things. We said, okay, if you were gonna die tomorrow, what's one thing you always wanted to do? And I said, well, I always wanted to finish and publish a book. So I joined the local writing group here, and they're amazing. They have a range of published and unpublished authors, and they have people that have done film and scripts and poetry. And it was just I remember like rocking up the first day and going, oh my God, I'm so underqualified to be here. I don't know that I'm going to cope. But just to have that support and the feedback and somebody that can like look at your work and point you in the right direction, that was crucial really at that starting point. And now I've been through the process so many times, I can actually start giving that back to new people coming through as well. which is, for me, kind of the end game is really writers supporting writers. So, but yeah, I love it. It's a passion of mine to write. I do it regularly and often, and we will quite often go away for writing retreats and, have, I call it the nunnery. We go down, it's about an hour away from here. It's a lodge that we all stay at, and you can't talk during the day. You just have to write, and then we can talk and catch up and drink wine and stuff at night. But yeah, it's pretty full on. The first time I went there, I'm like, oh my God, where's the noise? But yeah, it's fun.
That does sound wonderful. My biggest foil in writing is noise of somebody interrupting me.
Yeah.
And then I kill them in a book. Let's see. John Clark asks, did you do research into the Skinwalker Ranch for your Shifter series?
Look, John, I would love to say that I did research all the time, but I'd be lying. I read a lot. I don't know that one in particular, but I definitely like to read a lot. And I read a lot of different genres, which I think is why I write a lot of different genres. And the other thing I've really got into recently is because I'm fairly hectic between work and life in general, is audiobooks. So I have an audiobook playing in my car 9 times out of 10. And that gives me, I guess, the ability to be able to listen to other people's work without having to sit down and read through it. So that's really handy. But I don't do a lot of research into stuff. If I do, it's more around sort of a particular plot point that I might have that I want to flesh out and make sure is accurate. I make a lot of random and obscure references to historical stuff through books. So just for those that want to invest more time in looking up stuff, you can check it's mostly accurate. But yeah, it's for me, it's a time thing. And because, like I said before, I'm a visual writer, I literally sit there and just write it out, and then I might go back later and rework it and, sort of invest a bit more time into that. But yeah, I'm not much of a plotter for that side.
I know the feeling. Do you do National Novel Writing Month?
Look, I've tried. I tried last year. I really struggle with it because it feels really restrictive to me, which I know is insane because all it is basically giving yourself a word count per day to get it done. But like I might go a couple of months of like writing next to nothing and then have like, oh my God, I'll be sitting in the shower and go, oh my God, I've got like a whole book here. And I'll just squirrel away for like a whole weekend and bang out like 3/4 of the book. So Nano, I'd love to say I'm really good at it, but I am terrible at Nano. It's on my to-do list one time to actually achieve it, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to toot my own horn here. I've done National Novel since 2011, and I've yet to miss one.
So good on you.
I'm writing right now, but going on the research in the book I'm currently writing, it's part of the story is set in 1692 colonial America. And so in it, one scene, one character, random person, his wife has died. He's got an infant and he's looking for the infant's crying because it needs food. So I knew they use wet nurses, but I know nothing about that, especially in that time period. So I spent half an hour yesterday researching that subject for one sentence in that book. So I would be accurate. So I know the feeling researching will absorb you on the smallest details. I'll write a whole thing about a cabin and not research 1 inch about how to build a cabin in 1692, but I can tell you all about how they did wet nursing.
Handy information to have.
So, if you ever watched a show like Castle or even Murder, She Wrote, where they have an author being the person who has cleverness because they know so much about everything, and be like, that's not real. I'm like, actually, yeah, I know a lot about random things. Any one specific subject, no, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm great for Jeopardy. I am solid for Jeopardy. Outside of that, I'm just like, eh. So, okay, let's see here. Ashley asks, what is your favorite genre to write about?
Sorry, that's my other life kicking in. My favorite genre to write about, that's tough. I've really enjoyed the paranormal stuff. I also have really enjoyed and the two sides of the paranormal, like the shifter side, but also the multi-universe one. The reason I really love those is there's a freedom of range there. You don't have the common restrictions that you have when you're bound by, gravity or logistics. You create those in your own world. And so if you want to put them in a world where there's zero gravity, they have zero gravity. If you want to make it so that they can change form, they can change form. There's not that kind of set requirement to have, the human element quite so obvious in it. So I really appreciate the fact that I can just let my imagination go completely bonkers, and it does. Like, it goes off the charts sometimes, so I have to pull it in. So for me, that's really freeing when I'm writing, and I write those really quickly because I can just not, get stuck on the fine print. I think the hardest genre for me to write would probably be the historical stuff, because it's very heavy in the detail. It's very heavy in making sure that you get, your research done and that it's accurate and it's, to point. Because that for me then stops that flow, it stops that process, because you're sitting there going, oh, hold on, I got to double check and make sure that's right, or got to, do research on wet nurses, which is kind of, for me, it slows down that whole process. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does at times when I'm sitting here thinking about something, and then all of a sudden I have to write that sentence. My brain's like, you can't go on until you know it. I'm like, I can come back to this. No, my brain just was like, story is on pause. We're good. Start researching. So, yeah. People ask me that a lot. What's your favorite genre? And I always come back to a thought. What's my comfort writing? I write as a job. I write for an online game. And so they'll hand me a project and say, I need you to write this story for next month. And I don't mind writing it, but it's not my comfort writing. My comfort writing is I'll sit down. If I want to just write a story, it's going to be fantasy. It's going to have magic. It's going to have wizards. It's going to have dragons. It's going to have witches, whatever. It's going to be fantasy, because that's my comfort. That would be my favorite genre if you picked it out. Is it the only one I like to write? Heavens no. I've got tons. But if I was just like given blank piece of paper and a pencil and said, just write something, you're going to get a dragon and a wizard and stuff happening. That's just going to be. So, yeah. So it looks like John has another one. John says, I'm really knowledgeable about psychic abilities and the paranormal, Greek and Roman mythology, as well as Norse. I like studying Celtic mythology and Hinduism. He researches a lot. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I believe John's also an author, so he understands that scattered brain knowing a little bit about everything.
He might like the one that I've done where it's jumping between universes, because the original idea and concept I had for that story was, what if all religions were right, but only a piece of them was correct? So I took a little snippet out of each of the different religions and concepts through time, and then weaved it together into how they then move through the universe. So he can check that one out.
What's the name of that one?
That's Vital Impetus is that one. And the second book for that one comes out in February. It's part of the original stories in the Magic and Mischief anthology.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, always give the book title. Everybody needs to know that. So these are all available on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah. Amazon, all the good booksellers, you know the drill.
Ebook, print book. Do you also have audio?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm working, the Vital Impetus one's coming through on audio. I haven't got a lot of audio stuff yet. It's on my to-do list. The Vital Impetus, though, I have done, and I've used an Australian person to voice it, because it's based again in Australia. So I thought it'd be quite fun to keep it Indigenous.
Yeah.
Make it native. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have... there's a guy who did some voice work for a commercial I put together for one of my books, and he has this beautiful accent, and people are like, oh, is that like Harry Potter? He sounds English. I'm like, He's from Australia. Listen to him. Of course, I grew up with a friend of mine who was from Australia, and her boyfriend was from New Zealand. And so I got to listen to both of them, and I listened to them long enough I could tell them apart, and people would go, "Oh, you're both from Australia. That's cool." And I go, No. He's from New Zealand. Can't you hear it?
It takes a while. But look, I'll be honest. I've been here for so long now, even I get caught out sometimes. So it's a thing.
Well, I'm living in Michigan, which is right close to Canada, and yet I'm from the South. So people look at me. I don't have a Southern accent, according to me. Maybe a few words, but no accent. People around here look at me and they go, "Oh, hey, you're from the South, aren't you?" And I'm like, "And you're from Canada, aren't you?"
I got no comment on this because my family in Canada may watch this. So,
yeah, well, it's fine. It's fine.
And it's funny because I read a lot of shifter stories myself. That's what I generally like to read. But whatever. But I find it funny because a lot of the authors are from New Zealand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
We've got a random affiliation with it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe it's escapism. I don't know. New Zealand's got beautiful scenery. So, like, if anything's going to shift or move or change shape, New Zealand's got it. I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely. I've gotten to know New Zealand very well. So, yeah. It's just interesting to see what comes out of different parts of the world. So a lot of shifter authors, though. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I was just thinking. I'm starting to follow more people on YouTube right now in random things from art to cooking, and half of them are from Australia or New Zealand. I don't know why, but
yeah, it's pretty busy. Like from a writing perspective, there's a lot of authors in both countries, and they're pretty active. Like we have a lot of writing associations and groups that are actively promoting, supporting, and helping writers. And I think there's been a shift as well. Amazon is readily available now for Australia. There was a point where you couldn't get printed here at all. So, there's definitely a growing trend towards writing in general for the area. And I think there's a lot of support for authors in the area as well, which is starting to open things up. But we don't really see it as, you have to write for your own country anymore. It used to be if you're based in America, you'd write for American audience, or you're Australian, you write for Australian audience. But nowadays, it's pretty much you write, and then the world lets you know what they're happy reading. So
yeah, I was really surprised. I write, and I consider myself an American writer in the sense that my tone and what I tend to write about, location-wise, if it's on this world, not a fantastical world I've created, ends up being here. And yet, my biggest fans, ones that I end up mailing books to constantly, I have England, I have Australia, South Korea, and my last one, this person just ordered like everything. I'm trying to remember. He's from like somewhere in Wales, and it's like I'm like, I have people here who come to me for conventions and stuff, pick up my books and all. So yeah, I have an American audience, but it's all over the world. I love that. I absolutely love that. And
absolutely.
And it's inspired me because when I'm writing for Heroes Rising, which is the game I write for, I love to take an entire chapter and set it in Sydney, or I'll set it in Tokyo. I'm like, okay, if they want to read my stuff, I'm going to put it in their cities. Let's just start shoving it over there. And it makes me have to do a lot of research and learn a lot more, because I know a little, but I don't want to get cliche or mention something that's not how they say this. That actually gets a little hard. Getting the common rhetoric, that's hard. It really is when you haven't been there. I've always wanted to visit Australia. It seems like a beautiful country where everything wants to kill you.
Pretty much, yeah. It's pretty much a summary. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's lovely, but like we're having pretty cold summer at the moment. I think it was the coldest day yesterday in 30 years locally. But typically here we would be, we do Celsius, so it's different. In the summer, it'd be 30 to 40 degrees here. So, yeah.
So yeah, I've always wanted to visit Australia. I have a friend who lives in Melbourne who keeps trying to get me to come there, and when I have the chance, I am going to visit. I just have to keep saying, "Oh, you got to be scared of this and this and this." I was like, "Just trust me. If it's an animal or a bug, I'll stay away from it because they're all trying to kill you some way." The koalas have it out for you, even if they can't kill you, they'll try.
Koalas are cute. They smell, but they're cute.
They're adorable to look at a distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was kind of curious. You mentioned that one of your main characters from this Shifter series is from America. Was there a reason behind that, or you just kind of threw that in there?
I kind of like the concept. So, and also I wanted to tie in a little bit of the traditional Shifter format, because when you think about Shifter books, they come from America. The concept's an American-based one. You have werewolves and that kind of thing. And I liked the idea of having that tie back to the traditional, and that being a strong, well-established family pack, because I think that's then tying that, linking that in from an international perspective. And then, I've got thoughts around how I can tie in other countries as well, because every country has their version of the big cat sightings or so I quite like the idea of being able to then tie in the different packs and how they moved and migrated and set up in the same way that humanity moved and migrated. So
you don't have any were-kangaroos?
No, I do have a were-tiger, which is based on the Tasmanian tiger as opposed to the actual tiger, because I love the concept of it being a quote-unquote native tiger. And I got to have a bit of a play in book 2 around the backstory on that one and the history, because Tasmanian tigers technically are extinct in Australia, but there's lots and lots of rumors about them still existing. So I got to have a bit of fun with that one as well.
Interesting.
Now,
okay.
I was curious, just from a writer's point of view, do you write these shifters as something like the Kitsune, where they're just a whole other race of beings that happen to shift into what looks like a tiger or a panther or whatever, or is it like in other mythology, which is it's a curse, or how do your creatures exist? Basically, I'm asking is are there people?
So they're people. It's a pack formed of people. Genetics plays a part. I have added in the ability for the Tasmanian tigers to be able to bite, to transform, because I quite like the concept of having that throwback genetically, where some types can actually transform other kinds. But genetically, I've tried to keep them like it's a gene pool thing, so you get it from your parents.
Okay, so as you talk about how they moved and migrated, that got me thinking about were these like, because one of the things I have read in some shifter style books and all is, again, one whole section which is very common is it's like either a curse, a spell, it's kind of magical, mystical, whereas the other one, they're not really a wolf and a person. They're a wolf person that's another whole breed of creature that can transform from a human form to a wolf form, but they're not really a wolf or a human. They're this creature. So that's what I was kind of getting at your viewpoint is yours, look like that, where they're not, it's not a curse. It's not, a science experiment gone awry. It's something that it's just a whole other, genetically a whole other people group.
Correct. Yeah.
Which I think that's actually really cool, because to me that gives it a different style of depth, because I think when they go with the curse or magic or science angle, that becomes such a big elephant in the room of the story.
Yeah.
In this way it's not. It's just who they are.
It's just who they are. Yeah. And they grow up not knowing any different, the same way that, anyone with a strange or abnormal gene wouldn't know any different. So that's kind of the backstory on that one, really, is I wanted to make it fairly straightforward, but also I guess it then allows you to have a bit of a play on that gene pool concept, and how strong their gene pool is, and how that feeds into the pack formation and that kind of thing as well. So
nice. Well, it sounds uniquely interesting. I'm actually quite interested in this myself. So remind us again. Tell us the name of the book series or the books.
Yeah. So the first one's called A Town Called Nowhere, and it's the Nowhere Pack series.
Okay, and that's available on Amazon as an ebook and print book and audio.
Yeah. Not audio yet. I'm working on that. I gotta find someone that can do the voice for it, because when you read it back in your head, like your internal head voice, I haven't found anyone that's matched that yet.
Yeah, I've actually got a friend who did a fantastic job for my Winter Wizard book, who is good for it, but his voice is very specific, so. You can definitely look for that.
I'm still hunting. I'll let you know when I found them.
Yeah.
Are you looking for someone who's Australian, New Zealand, or are you kind of broadening your spectrum to other?
I'm broadening my spectrum on this one. Yeah. In my head, it's actually almost American. So yeah. There you go.
John does have a question again. He says, "Have you written anything about Dreamwalkers or the Dreamtime?" And I'm not actually sure.
No. Yeah, so dreamwalking is an Aboriginal concept, and Dreamtime is to do with that Indigenous side. No, I haven't, and I've been really deliberate in not writing about that because it's not part of my heritage, and I don't feel that I have the right to do that. And I feel that it's really important that Aboriginal people are recognised and maintain their own story and script line on that one. So I deliberately have chosen to avoid that.
Okay. I do remember that now. It's been a long time since I studied that, but I do remember what he was talking about. It kind of threw me for a minute. So
yeah,
it's
the same thing. Like, we have Maori people in New Zealand. I don't have a Maori background, and again, I wouldn't use any of their storylines in mine because it's what they call hapu, which is sacred for them. So for me, it's really important that I recognize that and leave that for them to work with.
Yeah, I can. It's like I've written books that deal with the Greek and Roman gods and the Egyptian gods from the ancient past. I don't feel that's going to be treading on anybody's cultural heritage. It's kind of now global fantasy, but I fully respect that because I grew up around a lot of Native Americans, so Navajo and lots of Cherokee, Wichita, and I know a lot about their customs, their culture, their myths and their legends and their religions, and I wouldn't even want to try, beyond the fact that, like you said, I want them to have the reins of their own story. I would be so worried that I get that one thing wrong, and one small thing wrong can be a huge problem, and I don't want to be responsible for that. Yeah, so I respect that highly. It's commendable. So, well, anything else you want to say before we're done for the night or for the day?
No, not really. It's been fun catching up with you guys and having a bit of a chat and. I've enjoyed my time, and look, I'll be honest, I have regular books coming out. People are welcome to keep track of what I'm doing, and if you think it's something you'd be interested, grab a copy, and if not, wait another couple of months. It'll probably be something else.
Yeah. Not interested in this genre. Just wait. There's something else coming. So
I have posted a link to your website on our Facebook page. So if anyone wants to check out, everything there and more about VK here, they can do so. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
You need to come back on when the next one comes out.
Yeah,
I will. I'll give you an update.
Yeah,
definitely. And if you have any updates along the way, things you want, special things that happen, you want to announce or something, share it with us. We'll share it and let people know about it. Because this day and age, social media is vital to getting the word out. So we'll help you get that out there.
And I'm not very TikTok friendly. I just don't get the concept. So
I'm Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, and somewhat Instagram, mostly Facebook myself. I have not even touched TikTok yet. Ryan has tried.
I've tried. I'm not. I'm not very creative when I just make random videos. It's like, why even bother?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
struggle with that one.
I have such a hard
Yeah.
time. Like I'm on YouTube, and I've been in for a few years, but all I ever post is maybe one of my book ads that I put together, and people are like, "Oh, you really should do this and that." I'm like, "Do you realize how much time I spend writing, people? I don't have time to make videos."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a commitment. Yeah.
Unlike YouTube artists that sit there and video themselves doing a painting, which is so fascinating to watch, no one wants to watch a video of me typing on a computer for hours. That's not good YouTube. It might be commercials. The commercials will be more interesting.
I hear you.
So, all right. Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Okay.
It's been a
Yes.
blast. I'm so glad to get to know you and learn about your books. And we do hope to have you back on to talk more about these as they come out. And
Sounds
different
good.
other books that come out. Let us know about them, and we'll have you on here to talk about them and help promote them. So
Awesome. Cool.
Absolutely.
All right. See you later, guys.
have a good
All right.
day.
Thank you. Oh. All right. Well, there you go. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. Getting to know VK. So like I said, the link to her website is posted on our page.
Mhm.
Go check it out. Go see all of her books. They seem really interesting. And we will see everyone next Thursday.
Yep. Next Thursday.
So, and there is a guest. So I'll let you know who it is.
Yep, next Thursday. As for me, I'll be pounding away at a computer trying to get that book written for this month because I don't want my 10th year to be a failure at Nano. I will succeed.
That's right. But I also want to remind everyone that next week is technically the last show, right?
Yep.
Because that'll be the last Thursday before Thanksgiving, and I'm not doing a show on Thanksgiving. So even though there's a guest that booked Thanksgiving, which I need to change that. I don't know how that happened, but that's not happening. Not this year. But anyways, all right, everyone. Well, don't forget to like and share the video. We'll see you all next Thursday for our last show. And that's it, right? Yeah.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Bye.